Now, we are going to have our speakers from Hearing Loss Live. That's Chelle Wyatt, and Julia Stepp. And take it, ladies.
Okay, I am Shelley Wyatt, and I've had a hearing loss probably since I was about 14 years old. It was noticeable only in noisy situations. So I kind of think now that I had hidden hearing loss. In 18, I got tinnitus. By 23 years old, I was wearing hearing aids, and I've been wearing hearing aids for 32 years now. It doesn't seem possible. I worked for when my hearing took a dip. I moved to right after I moved to Salt Lake City, and I discovered the HLAA chapter here, and immediately joined them. And then I also discovered the Division of Services of the Deaf and Hard of Hearing. They have a really awesome hard of hearing program here with multiple classes. I learned how to manage my communication. I ended up teaching a lot of classes when I went to work there, and I was there for 8.5 years. So I taught a lot of classes, and I've learned a lot in the process. And just because, I wanted to reach out further than the state of Utah. So Julia and I have started Hearing Loss Live because we have a passion for hearing loss and teaching people how to be proactive with their communication and manage your communication better. I'll let Julia go now.
I'm Julia Stepp, and I am the hearing partner of Hearing Loss Live. I am actually a open captioner here in Salt Lake for 20 plus years in all sorts of events. And I apologize because I'm going to have my phone by me because I have somebody of my staff captioning a sports event right now, and I'm the contact in case of an emergency. But have loved Hearing Loss Live because this journey has made me realize just how long I've been a hearing partner. My grandmother was deaf in one ear and had hearing loss my entire life in her other ear. She was deaf in one ear from age 8 with a hearing loss in the other. Proficient lip reader. Got by at telling very few people she wore hearing aids or was deaf at all. Could play the piano. Everybody thought she was a little eccentric. Turns out it was just her hearing loss and her ability to hide it that made her a little quirky. Anyways, a lot of the stuff that I realize I do naturally came from her training me, I guess I'll say, on how to have a better communication style with her. The other blessing, becoming a captioner in Utah, one of my first guinea pigs was our local HLAA chapter, who took me in, embraced me, taught me all sorts of things, how to be a better captioner, all sorts of stuff. I give kudos to all that HLAA does for empowerment. That's kind of who I am in a nutshell. And like Shelley, I've been involved with lip reading classes either as a teacher or I've actually captioned classes. I even have done some of the Mount Diablo community college classes over the years, way back in the day. So I find lip reading is a very interesting thing that people very much misunderstand. And I love the fact that we've been able to take information and make it better educate people on how they can be actively communicating better. That didn't make sense, but you'll find I have my own style of speaking too, which is probably why I'm a captioner, not a talker.
Yes, we love Julia. So as I said, I taught classes for the Division of Services for the Deaf and Hard of Hearing here. And one of them was the speech reading class. But a lot of people look at speech reading, when I say that, and they go, what? So I call it all lip reading. I mean, I know speech reading kind of covers more of what we do, but it's still, to me, speech reading is still here and here, you know? It's not encompassing everything we do. So either term, but people know lip reading the best. So I taught speech reading for the state for, I think, 8 years. And I edited the class and reviewed it like 3 times, I think. And we had 18 lessons. And believe me, that was mind blowing. Okay. Everybody was really depressed by the time we got to like lesson 4 because we started wham bam right into the lip shapes. And after teaching this class for so many years, and after I got out of the state program, I was like, you know what? The lip shapes are really only this much of lip reading. It's not like we're taking apart every word. We're not going, there's an F, there's a D, there's a, so it's impossible to lip read like that. So if you think lip reading is all lip shapes, just take that out of your head because that will help empower you in your communication a little bit better. So when the pandemic came along, I happened to be the hard of hearing program manager. And we immediately took our classes online, and we found a huge benefit in the classes being online because people can turn off their microphones. Every class I've had in person, we can't judge the way, how loud we are. And so a lot of people end up whispering really loudly or saying it louder than they think, just because we can't hear ourselves, we don't know. So online classes, you could just turn your microphone off and talk at a normal pace. Sometimes people would slow way down when they're in person, and they do that. But online, if you turn the microphone off, it was like easier. And plus, look how big my face is here. That makes lip reading easier too. Often in person, we're anywhere from 2 feet to 10 feet away from each other, and it gets harder to see. So, we are here to clear up some of the misconceptions. And like one of them I've already said is that it's all about the lip shapes. Honestly, the only time I use the lip shapes is when I'm stuck on a word. Okay, I can pull out the lip shapes fairly fast and try to arrange it in my head. So we're going to go over here a lot of what lip reading really is. When we're lip reading, we are filling in the gaps. We hear some, we don't hear some. We're reading body language. We're looking at facial expressions. We're using our logic. Does this word fit? And matching it against everything else we see. And a lot of lip reading, which is my favorite tool, is anticipation. And we'll talk about that, I think, here in a little bit on that. But if I know this is like knowing the topic. You guys, we've always heard how important it is for hard of hearing people to know the topic. But that's because we can use our logic and our hearing and match things up better. If we don't know the topic, it's total guesswork. So anticipation is one of my favorite strategies to use. We had a lot of hearing partners take our classes over the years. Julia teaches the class really well, and she's a really good lip reader with all the practice that she's done too. And we've had hearing partners join, learn the communication strategies and what it takes to lip read, and their relationship and communication has changed a great deal because of it. I remember a couple a long time ago in a class I taught, he came to support his wife, and we got to probably the 12th or 13th lesson. And it was short stories. And she lip read almost the whole story, and nobody else in the class got it. And his jaw dropped, and he looked at her and he said, "You really are lip reading." And she kind of laughed it off. But sometimes it takes a little bit for our hearing partners to get the hang of it. And I think after that, he was a lot more conscious of his communication style, making sure she could see him, and all of that will come to. A long time ago, in the first version of the lip reading class, when I started teaching, they had the Albert Morabian rule of likability and personal communication. And it's not really so much understanding, but it's what people are paying attention to when you're talking to someone, and how you're judging them in a way, and whether or not you like what they're saying or who they are and all of that. It says that 55% of communication is body language. 38% is tone, and 7% is the words they use. That's kind of incredible. What do you guys think? Is that? No, no. It blew me away. And back then, I was like, there's no way. There is no way it's only 7% of words, because I'm hanging on to every word. I need every word I can get. And I disagreed with this for a couple of years, but the more I taught, the more I understood it. And I'm kind of like, almost, yeah, I don't really need to hear that much anymore. I can use the body language. I've kind of lost tone because I have a severe hearing loss now. So tone can be hard for me to catch, but body language and all these other strategies and tools that we're going to talk about make up the most of communication for me. So we're going to talk about some of the steps. And the following steps will help a great deal without the lip shapes. And we prove this in every class. I'm going to let Julia take it. No, it's me now.
Doesn't matter.
Go, Julia.
Yeah, I can do it. So the first concept we like to talk about, we call it being proactive. Most people call it self-advocacy. Sometimes though, when you say you've got to be a self-advocate, people's faces glaze over. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, or there's this dread that I'm going to have to. I'll give an example. We were at a play and a friend of ours had joined us, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I love open captions. We do this little playhouse. How do I do that?" Shelley said to them, "Send them a letter." Oh, I have to do something. I'm going to have to put myself out there. And it just totally overwhelmed her. And so Shelley said to a class presentation, "What do you feel about being proactive? What are you proactive in your life every day?" And they're like, "Oh, wait a minute. I can be proactive for myself and my own needs. I am a person. I can do that." And so we like to use the term, first thing you've got to do is be proactive. We don't want to be assertive. We don't want to take on all the responsibility ourselves, because communication is a two-way street. So we have to learn what it is we're going to be proactive about. I'm going to show you an example, and then we're going to explain what we call the 3 golden rules. I'm going to trust you not to cheat and see what I'm saying as I turn around and face away from you by using your captions. So pretend your captions aren't there. Put your little hand over it. This is one of the examples we use in class. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. If you didn't have your captions, who heard what I said? You can raise your hand. So if I say it to you facing you, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Is it a little bit clearer? Now, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You've added a little bit of gesture. So we like to teach right off the bat, with concepts, the first thing you have to do is know your 3 golden rules. Get my attention first. Face me the whole time you're talking to me. Be within 6 feet. Getting my attention first is important because I may know you're talking, but I don't know if you're talking to me. I don't know if you're talking to the car next to us, the TV. Maybe you're talking to the dog. Face me the whole time allows me to see not just the lip shapes that are visible, but your reaction. What's going on with your face? What are you feeling? Is this important? Are you trying to bring humor? The 6 feet, I think we all know because it has to do with hearing aids, right? Your hearing aid distance is best within a 6-foot parameter. These are simple rules that I was like, well, way back in the first days of Hearing Loss Live, I kept saying to Shelley, well, I thought everybody knew this. I used to do it as a human resource leader. I always faced my consumers or whatever. And I realized, no, it was my grandma training me, because she would touch me on the shoulder and say, now say that again, and make sure I was looking at her for best visible. They used to be social graces back in the day. And, you faced each other and you talked to each other in a polite tone, in a manner, all of that stuff. And it's kind of gone away. But these are very easy for both parties to use with everybody. Yes, I can hear you while I'm doing dishes in the kitchen, but I'm going to choose to turn the sink off and come into the same room as you and face you and talk to you. I practice it with everybody. My kids do it with each other. So you can train family members. They grew up with great grandma and great grandma rules, but even today, they'll say in a car, you're not facing me. I can't understand you. You either look at me or we're done with this conversation. So you can train everybody around you. Might take some time, right? I often talk about, is it hearing loss or 30 years of marriage? Because sometimes I have to depict, is it my spouse's hearing loss, or is it because we've been married 30 years and we've just done it wrong for this amount of reason? Does that kind of make sense? I'm a firm believer, practice what you preach, right? So I do use it with others. And I find that some of those people who may have not faced me in the future or in the past, when I do it regularly, they start to, just automatically face me when I'm talking to them. Shelley, give us your thoughts on the 3 golden rules while I sign myself back into. It signed me out, so.
It's funny, in my Facebook memories, 10 years ago today, I realized that if my communication partner can't do their part, I will never, ever be able to do my part. So my husband was behind me in the kitchen with his mom 10 years ago today. And he was about 10, 12 feet behind me. I'm reading a book. I had been reading the book probably an hour better. It was funny. So I was really into it. And I got up, I finished the book, I got up, and my husband said, thank God, I've been trying to talk to you all day. And I was like, really? And I said, well, did you get my attention first? Did you call my name? He goes, no. And then I was like, okay, were you within 6 feet? No. Were you facing me? No. And when people are talking behind you after a while, it just all blends out. So that was the first time where I thought, oh my gosh, there is no way I can do my part if he doesn't do his part. So this has become a hard and fast rule with me. They have to follow the 3 golden rules. And then every once in a while, he will be talking from another room. And of course, I don't get it. And so I'll ask him if he gets irritated, because, sometimes our hearing people get irritated with us for repeating. And I'll say, I'll give them those three things. And I'll say, did you, most of the time, at least one, if not two of those things were missing. And I'm like, you can't be mad at me because I can't do it until you do that. So, huge thing there for me. There's another thing, and being proactive. Uh, I wish I had learned those three rules way back in the 90s when I was a hairdresser and I was in the salon. And I had, back then, it was analog hearing aids, which were awful, right? So, in this noisy situation, I had this one hairdresser friend that I worked with, and she would say something from across the room when I wasn't looking at her, and I wouldn't hear her, and the what she would tell me would be, "Are your ears on?" Meaning, did I have my hearing aids in? And I was like, "Yeah." Or she would say, "Turn up the volume." I didn't know what to do with that back then because, I didn't understand hearing aids had a bunch of limits that went with them. So I needed to see people to hear them. And but now I have all kinds of answers for that now. Like, I can use those three golden rules that I gave to my husband and say, hearing aids aren't called hearing miracles for a reason. And then cochlear implants are the same way. A lot of hard of hearing people get pay attention. Well, yeah, pay attention if you do those three things. I mean, I'm guaranteed to focus on you if you do those three things. And there'll be less repeats and less communication breakdowns because of those three things. When I get to a communication breakdown, I can usually point out which one of those were not followed. And that's with hearing aids, without hearing aids, with cochlear implants, without cochlear implants, with amplified devices, and all of that. Those three rules are guaranteed to fix most of the communication breakdowns. I see I kind of skipped ahead. Julia, do you want to add anything to that?
No, it's a good example of being proactive stops the reactive, right? I remember one day washing dishes and my husband was watching TV in another room and I started talking to him and he went, "What? Are you talking to me?" And I realized knowing these three rules stops me from being angry. Wait a minute. I did not follow through with my part. I don't like him to talk to me when he's doing dishes or water's running. Why am I expecting him to hear me? It took down that reactive need to say, well, you need to listen better, which I can do when I'm facing him instead, right? And he says, what? No. But that's the 30 years of marriage talking. So I think it's when you're proactive with your hearing loss, it makes those around you less reactive. And in return, then did I just lose Shelley? It takes the reactive from you as well, right? It hurts when they say, "Are your ears on?" So being able to say, "Yep, they're on, but I still can't understand what it is exactly you're asking me." Does that kind of make sense? Understanding and hearing, two different things. Oh, there's Shelley. She just was on a different screen. Are you ready for me to start on the second thought? Or do you want to? I lost you for a minute. Okay, there you go. Which brings us to, you got to be calm. Shelley has a Buddhist term called monkey mind, where your mind is racing and it's like, oh my gosh, this is going to go so bad and I don't know what I'm going to do. And you're just really stressing out over the situation. We use an example called that girl Mindy at work, right? We all have a Mindy. Here comes Mindy. Mindy has trouble looking me in the face. She forgets that I have a hearing loss. She mumbles. She's very maybe introverted, and so like you're staring at her and that makes her more nervous, so she's now picking at things in her teeth or trying to hide herself because she thinks that's what you're staring at her for, and she's coming right at you to talk, and you're like, oh no, and your mind just starts to go, what, Shelley? Here I come, I'm Mindy.
Yeah, it's like if I'm not calm, I can't use all my communication skills. So if I got that monkey mind thing going on, and oh my God, it's Mindy. Oh, here she comes. Oh my God, can I go another way and avoid her? All these different things. But my mind is so busy that by the time she comes up to me, I can't go anywhere else. I'm already flipped out in my head. So I have to find the calmness. And part of it might be that I just need to sit down with Mindy and tell her what I'm doing. And I actually have a recent story with my grandson on this one, because this is being aware of body language. Our body language says something completely different. So my grandson one day, and he's still high pitched voice, so I can't hear him. And we're in the car, and I asked him, what, or I couldn't hear him. So hold on, let me get to a stoplight and let me look at you. So I swung around to look at him, and I had this very intense focus look on my face. And my grandson, he starts slinking against the car door. He's getting away from me. And this is how I communicate. I'm watching body language and stuff. And he's way against the door now. And I realized, being aware of my own body language and my intense look that it takes for lip reading, I said, oh, did I have a mean look on my face? And he goes, you did, yes. And I had to say, I'm not mad. Okay. It just takes everything in my head to be able to hear you. And I'm focused really hard. So it looks mean, but I'm not mad. And so he kind of came back to his seat and he said, I'm really glad you explained that, Nana. So how many people are out there that we do this to and we have no idea, the intense focus look. So with Mindy at work, she might be the same way about me. She's coming up to me going, oh my God, here comes Shelley. I don't know how to handle this. And so what I need to do is take Mindy aside and say, I use lip reading. I know I have this really intense look on my face, but I'm using what hearing I have left. I'm using lip reading. I'm using logic. I'm using anticipation. So all these stuff is going in on my head. And how might we do this a little bit better, Mindy?
Exactly. Be proactive in working with Mindy. And you might help Mindy learn to be a little more comfortable with herself. It could be a safe space for her to practice better communication skills that she can take away and use with others. Any questions? So one of the things we like to teach, relax. How can you anticipate to be proactive and relax before the situation? How can you set yourself up to be ready? Okay, that relax a moment. We go over what we've called wait for it. For me, as a hearing partner, I need to be a little more patient and let you process. Shelley in particular, because I work with her quite regularly, I'm going to use this as an example. I know when I'm talking with Shelley, when she's processing, how long to wait while she processes what I'm saying. Folks in general who hear have no patience, right? They're bulleting off to you something and you're still trying to process everything and put it together, and they're already repeating it, but you're still trying to process it the first time, let alone try to have them repeat it before you're ready for the repeat. So oftentimes I can watch Shelley's expression. I've said something, I wait until I say, okay, what part, and I do, because I've known her so long, I can say, okay, what part of that didn't make sense? So she can tell me what she needs clarified. Or I know that she's still processing and she'll answer as soon as she's put it all together. It's okay. So I'm the rare unicorn, right? I don't know how many people honestly realize how to do that. So this is where you can kind of tell them, give me just a second. I'll let you know what I heard. And then if we need to figure it out, we can, I can tell you what I heard and we can repeat it. Also makes for a lot of fun on sometimes what we think we heard and what was said can be kind of comedy at times. So it allows them to know, I didn't hear that quite right. Let's try it again. Shelley, how does a wait for it work as a hoe?
Yeah, it's more, lip reading is about how well you know people. The more I know them, the better I can understand them. So maybe I don't know Mindy well enough and I haven't spent enough time with her. So I could explain to her, that I'm practicing, I'm getting used to your voice. I'll get the hang of it here soon. So for me, wait for it is not to interrupt the person right away anymore. It used to be like, no, I missed a word, stop. And now I've been able to roll with it. So I kind of wait for it because something's going to come up that I can latch onto, and then I can go back and the past kind of comes to my head and I understand the conversation. So waiting for it is a big thing for me, and learning to relax was very hard. But part of that now is because I understand the wait for it. I don't understand strangers. So if I just tell them to give me 10-15 minutes, I'll probably get the hang of the way they talk and the way they say their words and catch their voice and all of that. This is all lip reading, okay? It's not just the lip shapes. So that comes together, and I'm not so hung up on every word now. That was part of it. Learning, I'm not going to get every word. You guys, I don't know if you guys are familiar with sign language, American Sign Language, but they don't use the small words when they're signing, okay? They use the more important words in the sentence. So that's kind of how it translates to my head for lip reading now. I don't need every word. Catching every word is unrealistic. You have to let that go. No one is perfect. Some people are absolutely unlip readable. And if I have a hard of hearing friend with me, I get that confirmation. So definitely hang out with your hard of hearing friends, because you can talk about what you got and what you didn't get. And it's amazing how often you both don't get the same thing, even if your friend is almost like an expert lip reader. So that was like validation, like, wow, okay, yeah, I am lip reading. And if we both missed it, then it's not just me, it's how other people are talking. The average lip reader gets about 30% of what's said. And I'm feeling in, okay, without hearing aids or anything, I have a 30% word discrimination. And because I hated the last pair of hearing aids I had, I hardly ever wore hearing aids. So I was getting 30% of the spoken word. But I learned my lip reading so much that as long as people did those 3 golden rules, that I did pretty good, I think. The only thing I lost when I got new hearing aids last March is I think my speech went downhill. but it's come back up with new hearing aids. All right, so no hearing aids, I have 30%. With hearing aids, I get 30% more. The most I'm ever going to get in the absolute quiet environment is 60% word discrimination. So when the hearing aid or the audiologist tested my lip reading skills, they found out that added another 30%. So 30, 30, 30. I do 90% if people are looking at me and there's not a lot of noise background and distraction. Lip reading with a lot of noise is also a distraction, I found out. The noise can be pulling me my focus away because it can be so bad. Lip reading is easier with hearing. If you're trying to lip read without hearing or learn to lip read without any hearing, it's going to be harder than even if you have this little bit. I just taught a class in person at the Utah University for OSHA program. And one guy stood up there and he didn't realize he was voicing so loud. And he whispered loudly the word we were trying to lip read. And everybody kind of laughed, but I said, no, don't you see? Even that loud whisper helped you understand that word that much better. So they were like, yeah. So even a little bit of hearing will make a difference. But also, after I say all that, it's exhausting. Okay. I have about probably a 2-hour lip reading limit, and then I got to take a break because of all the work I'm putting into it. The lip shapes, not really lip shapes, but it's more of a pattern of words we begin to recognize after a while. So all of that, I'm exhausted. If I have to do a meeting for 2 hours, it's happened only a few times without captions. I've had to go in the office, turn off the light, take out my hearing aids, and just. So it gets me by, but it's not the end all be all. So don't lip read for 8 hours. And Julia's got more to add on this.
Well, this is where you need your toolbox, right? I have a consumer who, again, is afraid to approach her boss. They did ask her to lip read for an 8-hour training for her job that she had to sign, that she understood what was being done. I mean, she could be fired if she didn't understand. This is where you need to know in your toolbox, what are your other tools? Is there a live captioning option? Work should be able to accommodate that for anybody, just like they do interpreters for those who ASL, sign language. Is ASR doable between the lip reading and having some type of captioning? Even if it's automated captions, is it enough to get you by? I have another friend who Microsoft Teams, I hate their captioning personally, but she gets by because she knows her employees well enough and the group is small enough. She can use her lip reading and what she needs to catch with the AI they have for Microsoft. Works great for her. I have another friend that's like, no way, we will have a live captioner so that I make sure I know what I'm doing. So if you can do 8 hours, kudos to you. But I don't know about you guys in this day and age with the Zoom meetings, people have forgotten how to take breaks. That's because they can turn their camera off, walk away, but that they've kind of forgotten the whole break thing. So know what there is available. Talk with your employer or the venue that you're working with. See what your options are. Any questions about tools you can use to help with your lip reading when it comes to captioning? I can always.
Yeah, I have a question. Do you not teach actual lip reading strategies for lip reading,
Yes.
watching facial expressions? Because I was expecting some of that in this class? Is that not the purpose of this class?
Are you talking the lip shapes,
I'm
practicing the
talking,
lip?
I guess it's shapes. I never thought of it that way, but I guess it's shapes. So consonant, I know that certain consonants that are very similar look very similar. I mean, that are very similar on the tongue or in the mouth cause a lot of difficulties. I don't know which ones they are. So part of it, I'm interested in trying to understand what to sort of look out for, what's easier, what's harder. Because I go off on tangents a lot. So I sort of, if I think it's cat and you're saying mat or hat, I'm like, my brain is off and running, and I'm sure I'm not alone. So I'm wondering if you could speak to that.
I think we have some in at the end, correct, Shelley, when we go through how to use the concepts. We talk a little bit about shapes. Am I correct?
Yeah, we're going to do some lip reading exercises here in a little bit. We do, but every class I teach, somebody says, I want the lip shapes. I don't want these strategies. And I just had that in the Osher program. If you don't know how to set your stage, you're not going to be successful at lip reading. You have to be able to set your stage first. So that's just kind of what we're talking about. I do love lip shapes. I like teaching it. We have 2 classes dedicated to lip shapes. And we found that when people pop into the lip shapes without the concepts first, they're lost. They're behind everybody else. They don't understand all the tools that go behind the lip reading. And I just taught the Osher program, and we had one man. I want the lip shapes. I want to know how to understand my friends better, which is what we all want. We do. And in the end, I did 3 weeks of concepts, and then I did 3 weeks of lip shapes. And in the end, he realized how hard the actual lip shapes were. And he admitted that he needed to learn the strategies first.
If it's okay, I want to just make one observation that I have that maybe will help some other people. And I have 3 young adult children, and fortunately, at least at this point, they all have normal hearing. I have a rare genetic disorder manifested in my late 20s, and it's been progressive since then. And my youngest one, who's particularly astute, calls me, my name is Sharon, and he calls me Sharon. And when he would call me mom, I often didn't respond. And for whatever reason, I've been a mom for 26 years, but maybe because mom is a generic word, I don't focus on it as much. And Sharon is a much less common word. So for anybody out there that has a loved one, sometimes, grandpa, mom, whatever, it's been very helpful to me to get my attention, because I sort of tune right in when he says Sharon. I used to think it was disrespectful. Now I realize it's really, really helpful, because I pause and I gear up. So I just wanted to share that.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I recognize my name faster than anything else that can be said. And my husband has learned that too, because now when I'm trying to tune him out while we're watching TV, he will go, Shelley, did you hear that? And I'm like, oh, damn, he learned. So that's a whole different thing. He likes to talk while watching movies. So yes, saying our names is the best way to get our attention, and then face us after. Okay, so we do move into the gestures and body language here, because we realized with teaching the 18 lessons, okay, there's really only 5 visible lip shapes, super visible, okay? That's it. Then there's like 5 or 6, I'll go 5 to 8 lesser visible lip shapes. And then after that, it's nothing. So that's why the strategies and the tools and the concepts and all are so important, because most of it is not visible. And teaching the 18 lessons at the state, we saw people just losing confidence really super fast. So we moved the gestures concept up in the lesson. And we incorporated that into all lessons. If people use a gesture, facial expression, or something, everything just snaps in just like that. And gestures are a visual communication for us, checking the body language. Like one of our lessons has something to do with sentences that we use. I love peanut butter. I hate peanut butter. Okay? And you can tell which sentence people pick because of their facial expression. I love peanut butter. And they get a kind of a smile, they get a nod. And if they say, I hate peanut butter, you see their face come together and their head go like this. So it helped build people's confidence to put the gestures in. And my husband is a major advanced gesturer. And when I can't hear a word or I'm stuck on a word, he can usually gesture it. He can tell whole stories with gestures. And everybody understands, even friends that have a more severe hearing loss than I do. I'll let Julia take it.
I think you kind of summed up gestures and body language. But it's a great tool, especially if you've got that person who's got the straight face look at you, don't really show emotion type situation. You may not be, depending how well you know that person, you may not be able to change that, but you can say, are you talking about turning right on First Street? And you can use the gestures to get them to kind of maybe help you with what it is you're trying to accomplish. Body language is a little different for those of us with hearing loss. So Shelley talked about her mean look. It's always good to be proactive to let people know if my brows are knit, I'm trying to understand the concept we're talking about. It helps clue them in that you're not mad while they're trying to tell you how happy they are because they got a brand new puppy or something, as an example. Anticipation, how well you know the person. What is the subject? What can you anticipate is going to happen? I used to equate in class this to like, you're going to a party at your brother's house. You know they're going to talk about their new boat or they're going to talk about their new car. One of the kids has a sweet 16 coming up. So you can think about all the words that might be said or talked about at the party. And it's like the emperor's new clothes. You get there and they didn't like buy the boat. They bought a motorhome. The sweet 16 party is now not going to happen because whatever. And so you feel a little naked, right? So you have to relax a minute, know that the subject's going to not be probably what you planned, but how do you make sure they keep you informed on the subject, right? Shelley and I know each other enough, or my husband and I know each other enough that odds are I'm going to talk about this, and Shelley can pick out enough of what I'm talking about to know what's important in the subject line versus what doesn't need to. We travel a lot together, and the first road trip was a lot of, are you talking to me? Because I myself talk to all the traffic that's driving by me and what I think about them. And if you cut me off or, get out of my blind spot. So Shelley realized a lot of times when I was at the window, I'm not talking to her and she doesn't need to have to learn to, tell me to face her. I will face her when I need her to know that I'm talking to her. So it's those little things to know about somebody that helps you with anticipation. When we know the topic, we're going to do better. So if you've got that person in your life who likes to change subjects rapidly, stop them. Okay, I thought we were talking about going to the beach in August. Is that what you're talking about? Clarify, stop them, make some clarifications. Did they move on to another subject and say, no, I actually don't want to go to the beach in August. I want to go to the mountains where it'll be cooler. And so then you can get right back into whatever it is you're talking about. And you will pick up the words with the lip reading a little easier. If you don't know the subject, cat, hat, and mat, just like Sharon said, look exactly alike, almost to the T. A couple of exceptions with cat and hat look alike. Mat is a lip sealer, so you might be able to pick up that a little easier, but it helps you to know what words are going to be used.
Yeah, I use anticipation when I'm talking to my husband. Okay, we're on this subject. I can follow along and pick out the words he's using. If he switches, I'm still on the old subject, trying to make sense of what I see and hear with his new subject and something, it's nothing. So when we teach these classes, we have word list for lip shapes. We have actual word list and we take turns with 4 different word lists, and everybody practices because it's good to lip read different lips and getting used to people. And they go, this is cheating because we have a list here and we don't have that in normal life. And I say, well, this is because we're learning the lip shapes. So when we're doing the word list, the best I can do is give you a word list with those lip shapes. When we get to the sentences, though, you can kind of pull out the topic because we always have a topic and you can figure it out. And in real life, if you know the topic, you have an automatic list of words going in your head that's going to go along with that topic. And it's easier to lip read and hear. So then this kind of goes back to the relax thing. Because if we're getting all tied up and angry, and it's funny that Sharon mentioned cat, because one day me and my husband were back and forth, and I don't care how long I've been doing this, I have my little upsets. And he was saying cat, and it's really not, it's a 1-syllable word. The hardest things there are is the 1-syllable word. He kept saying cat. And because he was getting more in my face trying to help me understand it, and my defenses kind of came up. I'm not getting it. I'm not getting it. So finally he said, I caught it. But, I should have stopped him and asked him at that point for a rephrase, because I didn't know the topic. I had to find out the topic. Please say another word instead of just whatever it is you're saying, because I'm not getting it. But every once in a while, I most of the time I'm relaxed and I'm calm and I can work through my tools and my strategies, and that's what a lot of lip reading is going, okay, that didn't work. Let me try something else. But you got to keep your mind calm to be able to do that, because if you get worked up, it all goes out the window. Julia, do you want to go now?
Sure. The next thing we talk about is placement. Placement can be a place, a people, a person, a thing. You can kind of put those all in together. What is your lighting situation? If you can't, if the person right now, Shelley for me is kind of front lit because she's so close to the computer, it changes the look of the face, right? If you have some backlighting at a restaurant, odds are you're not going to be able to lip read. Lighting is important where you're at, whether it's in your house, whether it's out in the environment, at a restaurant, a large group gathering. Where are you going to stand? Let's say, I don't know, you're at your friend's for your Christmas party. Are you going to stand in a circle of 10? Is that going to be doable? If not, how can you take them and be one-on-one? Take aside, hey, Fred, I want to talk to you a minute. Come over here. Let's talk one-on-one so that I can really get to know what's been going on with you. Can you switch places? Can you walk around while you're talking with them and stand in front of each one of them? Can you lay on the floor and look up at them? We see better from below than we do above when we're lip reading. So placement really matters. Chelle, I'm sure, can share some stories on how important placement is.
At restaurants, sitting down, I gotta have the other person's face in the light. If I can't, I can feel the muscles tense in my face from the focus, and I know that something's not right. So my husband will switch places. One time a waiter was backlit when he came in. My husband's face was lit, but not the waiter's. I like to do things as much as possible by myself. I don't ask my husband to step in. He actually waits for me to ask him for help most of the time. So I couldn't understand the waiter after 2 tries. And I realized, oh my gosh, he's backlit. His whole face is a shadow. I see nothing. So I said, okay, I cannot see you there. I actually sat him in my seat. And I stood up with my back to the window. So his face was lit up. And he's like, no, I'm going to get in trouble. I said, no, you're accommodating me. You will stay right there and repeat your question. No, that's me managing my communication to the hilt. And once he sat down and his face was lit up, I got everything he said. I didn't have a problem. So lighting, major important.
Often in class, we remind people if something used to work when you could hear and maybe your hearing loss has changed that, speak with your friends. Do you have to go to Mimi's restaurant when you know you're not going to be able to hear and you want to be involved with your friends? How do you change up? Maybe you use the Soundprint app and you say, hey, can we start meeting at this restaurant that's listed as a hearing friendly environment? Maybe you move it to one of your, change houses with each other, make it a little more home placed. One of my students, cute little students I had one time, she had a Baja, but she was still pretty new to hearing loss. She was young, and it never dawned on her to talk with her friends about what she needed for communication. And so after our classes, she went, she talked to her friends, and she said, now when we go to the restaurant, they're the first ones to say, we want that booth right over there in the corner furthest away from the music. And this is the table we want so that we can have better communication skills. It's amazing. Sometimes we're afraid, but sometimes when we ask our friends and family, I need you to do this, they actually are willing to help, because the truth is, at the end of the day, they want to communicate with you, right? They want to hear what you have to say. They want you to hear what they have to say. That's important to them. One of the things I like to teach as the hearing partner, because I think it's so important, is if you guys tell us what we need, Chelle talked to you a little bit about if you don't do what I need, I can't do my part. That's one of those things we both agree on. I, as a hearing person, need to know what you need so I can do my part. Okay. So, don't be afraid to tell them, get my attention, use my first name if you're trying to get my attention, or tap me, whatever works for you. Make sure you're facing them. Make sure they know that works for you. Be within that 6 feet. If they're one of those who has lips like this, ask them if they can move their lips just a little more for you to be able to understand what that lip shape might be. Teach them about what a steady pace versus being a fast talker. I don't think we can stop all fast talkers, I am one of those that can get rolling pretty fast myself. But if you can come up with a, hey, I'm just going to go like this to let you know to slow down just a little bit. Or, you know, I don't know about you, but I used to think people needed to use monkey lips, right? You really need to see what I'm saying to you, and realizing that that's not going to work. You're still going to meet that person who's going to do that and be right up in your face when they do it. Being able to say, you know, that doesn't work for me. I can't see that. A lot of people who don't have hearing loss or don't know people with hearing loss don't understand volume is not always necessarily what you need. Your hearing aids give you volume, right? But if I start shouting what I'm saying to you, it distorts my lips, it distorts my face. It doesn't allow you the ability to understand what I'm saying. So using the words like, I need you to project just a little more so that I can understand what it is we're talking about, is a good way. I would refrain from asking people to speak up, because that tells them to yell, if that makes sense. It's important. If you've got a mustache man, can he keep it trimmed up? Does he know how to get it off of his lips so that you can see the face? That's one of the most important parts of facing somebody. You want to be able to see their lips. If you can't, you're not going to be able to use it for lip reading. One of my big ones, and this was brought up in a class, I think, don't talk and eat. Teach your loved ones, don't talk and eat. And we all break the rule at some point. I get it. But number one, it's just gross. If you've got something in your mouth, it takes your attention away. I don't care if it's gum, candy, your dinner. Finish what you're eating. The other thing people do when they're eating, they'll do this when they're talking to you because they don't want to, you know, gross you out, right? I would just rather say, give me a minute. I'll finish what I'm eating, and then I'll say what I have to say. And then I can go back to eating while you're talking to me. These all seem very common sense, right? We always have at least one person who says, well, yeah, this makes a whole lot of sense, but they've never put together that it works with lip reading. It helps you be a better lip reader. Are you going to be proficient? Odds are no. Maybe. The people I know that have been proficient lip readers that I've known in my 50-something years, my grandmother, a member of HLAA way back when, I haven't seen her in a really long time, a consumer that I captioned for at college level, and a friend of ours that we've met through the Say What Club. What all four have in common, they've been lip reading since they were kids. They didn't learn speech reading. I have a whole other bent I can go on about what speech reading really is about. I won't do it right now, maybe later. If you want to send me an email, I can give you my rant. But they're proficient. But the truth is, and this is something I think came to light in the pandemic, we all lip read to some point, right? We all have been taught to sound out our words phonetically. So at some point, we all use lip reading. We just don't realize that's what we're doing. Doesn't matter if you're hear well or not. I know for me as a captioner, having professors on Zoom, I was like, wow, this is a walk in the park. I didn't realize how much easier it is versus a professor who's sitting at the board with their back to me the whole time, trying to understand, you know, this is a chemistry class, and I'm like trying to understand which chemical is he talking about, what math, you know, is that the Ludwig or is that the, you know? So I think it brought to light that everybody uses it to some extent, but the harder we try to lip read, the more likely you are not going to have success with it. Okay, I'm done rambling. I will turn it to Shelley.
So a big part of being a lip reader is flexibility. And we do teach the Janet Jeffers method of lip reading, which is the visible lip shapes, situational cues, which is anticipation and stuff, and the visual, and flexibility. Because you got to know what to do when it's not working, or what you got to figure out why it's not working and be able to flip it around to where, like, oh yeah, okay, he's backlit. I need to change positions and I'll be fine. And then I can follow again. But the people who can't, who are rigid in their thinking and I've got to hang on every word, they're not the successful lip readers. It's the ones who are flexible, who can move around, who can say, maybe even, this is not going to work at all. I need you to do pen and paper. I need to break out my otter app. Because let's be honest, some people talk like this sometimes, and it's really hard. And then they have no facial expression. That's like, I have a neighbor that does that. And thank God 3 other hard of hearing friends say they can't understand them either. So it's not always our fault. So I thought I would leave you with a little lip reading exercise, okay? We're going to give you the topic. I think Julia's going to throw it in the chat. Okay? And I am, because this is what it is. It's knowing the topic. So she'll throw it in the chat. You can take a look. And I'm going to say one of the vegetables, and you don't have to look in the chat if you really want to test yourself, okay? Because if you know the topic, I think you'll get it. It's a vegetable, and that's how we teach it. We do it face on. We do it to the side because every once in a while it's a little easier to see from the side, and we change positions. So who got cucumber? All right, pretty good. Okay, let's pick another one. I can even look at your faces and see you guys saying it, and I'm understanding it from you. Mushroom, right? Okay, let's do one more on this list. And we have a couple of jokes here. And as we do our lip shapes, we bring in all the strategies and we share things. Okay, one of the things we like is hard of hearing people have a tendency to do their L's a little more distinctly than hearing people do. Julia's L's are different than my L's. My L comes out a little more. We have a friend who does beautiful L's, and whenever she picks an L word, we all get it. And then what was the other thing we have is there's a bounce club we call the bounce club. Sometimes Julia falls in it, sometimes it's unavoidable. M, P, and B are the lip sealers. M, P, B. M stays closed a little longer. The P and the B have a little release at the end. But sometimes people can over-exaggerate that release. Vacuum. And then all of a sudden it looks like you have an at the end. So you're like racing around looking on the list for the so we have to learn how to go vacuum, and seal it, or laptop. Just a little bit of release. Don't go exaggerating on it. What are some of the other things we bring into it?
I'm not sure, but I think we need to wrap it up because we got our times wrong. Sorry, Janie. We had an hour and a half thought process in our heads. So like, oh, we can do this all. We were wrong. Anyways, but we go through the first lip shapes classes. All 6 weeks are about the more visible lip shapes, and we talk about the sounds they make. unlike speech reading that teaches you how to understand your own voice, where to feel that puff when you use the word p, we teach you to see it on other people and how to use a little bit more of that to see what's next, right? We can all usually pick out the vowels. They seem to be very easy, but it teaches you how to put those sounds together. And then our advanced class goes into the less visible. And then our third class is all about sentence structures, talking in sentences with each other.